Words. So I've written an essay up about him, actually. But thank you all very much indeed for coming today. Before I do say a few words, I would like us to remember absent friends and loved ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Just for a few seconds. But I know that Bernard, I'm going to start calling him Bernard, I might deviate from that later. It's likely that so many of you have made the effort to come here today. And you, on meeting him, have shared the joy, with tears at times, on meeting these new people. Anyhow, Bernard, alias Danny, and sometimes registered on Taswell AFC team sheets in the 1960s as Bernard Davis. Not like Don, for reasons we'll find later. Was born on the 10th of January 1942 in the Ton. Now, I was 7 at the time. Some of you there will say, God, you look so much younger than me. I was delighted to have a new brother. My mother would have liked to have had a girl. But when she saw him, she fell in love with him straight away. And she was so pleased to have him. He hasn't changed much since those days, and he didn't have much hair when he was born. Now, the 10th of January was famous for one other thing, other than Bernard's birth. I went onto the website, and on the 10th of January 1942, Liverpool was bombed by the Germans for the very last time. And by coincidence, the house that Adolf Hitler's nephew lived in was destroyed by the Germans. Think of that now. They were never very good shots at football. Is that right? Anyhow, the other thing that happened during 1942 was that How Green Was My Valley won the Oscar for the best film. Some of you can remember that, not many of you, but some of you can. And Bing Crosby recorded White Christmas. And he's made a few bob by doing that. Anyhow, now Bernard is Robert Bernard.
Good name, that.
And, sorry Robert, and he was going to be called Bernard Lawrence. My mother wanted to name him after her 2 brothers. But my father, who didn't interfere much in things like that, he had to go and register him at the birthplace, the registry. And when he went there, he decided, I got this, God, 2 names after the O'Brien family, so he became Robert Bernard. Robert after my Uncle Bob, father of many people here present today. And that's the story. That's the true story. I won't tell you why I'm called Brian and not John. That's another one. As you know, we all live down the lane opposite Ton Park. And Bernard spent a lot of his time in Ton Park. In fact, there's a hole in the hedge, or there was a hole in the hedge, where we used to go through. And it was sometimes converted, it sometimes was a tractor, it was sometimes an aeroplane. We used to sit on this particular part of the hedge and do marvellous things. But Bernard was always there in the park, kicking a football with his favourite left foot. And he did have a good left foot, believe you me. Many of you here present will know that he was a fine all-round sportsman, not just about soccer, but he played rugby successfully for Whitchurch Secondary School, and I know that his sportsmaster there, Peter Lewis, thought the world of Bernard. And I actually went to see him playing in the under-15 final at the Cardiff Arms Park.
Hey!
And he was equally as good at soccer in those days, rugby in those days as he was at soccer. Also a fine athlete. He was the Glamorgan 3A's triple jump champion. And when he married June, I think Darren, you'll remember me saying, watch out, June, because he's a triple jump champion. I'm quite excited. And he was also a very good cricketer. In fact, playing for Ton Youth Club against Hopkinstown, up just north of Ponty, we had to abandon the game because he hit 3 balls into the river. I told Darren this story at June's, after June's funeral, and Darren said, ask him about it now. I'll ask him, she said, and I bet it'll be more than 3 balls. And sure enough, it was 6 balls. Now, he had a most peculiar bowling action. He used to bowl like that. Right-handed, left-handed bat, bowl like that. Not very straight. My mother used to say, our Bernard is a little Ella. And looking round today, there were more than one little Ella in the town in those days. He wasn't all that keen on his schoolwork. And when we asked him about his homework, oh, I haven't got much. And then we find the books hidden underneath the mat. I say mat because we didn't have carpets in those days. And the mat, and it was always there under the mat. Now Bernard, even in his early days, was a very keen gardener. My father was a keen gardener, and I think Bernard took a lot from that. And he spent a lot of his, from 10 years old on, over the river on Bales Farm. And he learned to drive long before I learned to drive. He was driving a tractor around Bales Farm when he was 11 years old. And I know that Ray Bale and Stan Hedges, who was Ray's foreman at the time, thought a lot of Bernard. And he did. I thought a lot of him because he used to bring tomatoes over for us. Well, this little Ella, among others, my mother said she sometimes drove him round the bend. And he heard this one day, and he thought, that's a good thing to do. So he became an apprentice plumber. A bit cheap for some of you, I know. And he went on to become a very successful plumber. And there are people in this room better placed than me to tell you of his exploits with Taftswell AFC. Poached from Tonwynlais by certain gentlemen who shall remain anonymous, together with a lot of other young men from Tonwynlais who went on then to play for Taftswell in the Amateur League. And I know that Bernard is delighted to see you here today, Don, because you meant a lot to him. In fact, you kept that club going for so many years, assisted by Geraint, and a very successful club it turned out to be, and is still a very successful club. And you'll be surprised to hear that Don is still treasurer of that club today. Now, Bernard did extremely well for Taftswell. He had a deadly left foot, as many of you know, and a fine turn of speed, and scored many, many, many goals for Taftswell. Now, even when he was suspended, he would still turn out the following week. Now, Don was not a bit amused by this, but he wanted a winning team, so the team sheet would go up. Stand up, Ernie. Ernie Davis would be there playing. This boy has played for Taftswell more times than anyone else without ever going on the pitch. In fact, he's been sent off playing for Taftswell without ever being on the pitch. Now, Bernard encouraged my younger brother Roger to play soccer, not rugby as I played. And Roger, as you know, turned out to be a fine footballer himself and a person with great academic distinction. Bernard had nothing to do with that last. Bernard